Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're going to talk about a very unique lens that is 35mm to 150mm f2 to 2.8 from Tamron. So let's dive right into it. Now, what exactly is so unique about this lens? Well, this is what we classify as all-in-one zoom, meaning you have your camera body, you have this lens, and you're done. You don't carry 10,000 lenses with your camera bag. You're just like one body, one lens, done, go home. Now, the X variable is 4.2, meaning the widest to narrowest is around 4.5, which is not too much, but because of the unique range it covers, the fact that it goes as wide as 35 millimeters and zoom as tight as 150 millimeter, it does gives it a very unique advantage that it lies directly between two lenses, which is there are three lens combination in what we call as the Holy Trinity lenses. This sits directly between those two. So that's the whole point of it. That's the unique part of it, that 35mm to 150mm. This is a full frame lens, meaning there have been other lenses that are like, quote unquote of this sort of quality, but generally they are for APS-C DSLR days. But this puppy is full frame E-mount, because E-mount is open, and Tamron has like 20%, Sony has bought 20% stake or something like that in Tamron. So E-mount collaboration is very high, and it is non-stabilized. Now, because at the widest point it can go as high as like f2, optical image stabilization in this puppy would have been too expensive, and not to mention this is a big bulky lens. It would have made them huge lenses. So we do understand like why the heck it does not. And not to mention, if you're buying this for Sony full frame E-mount, majority of them have IBIS, so that's not too big of a deal. Now it's really bright, that's another aspect of it, and it drops to 2.8. Let that sink in. There are other high quality lenses, especially for Holy Trinity lenses. They are generally constant aperture, which generally is a desirable thing, but they drop their constant is f2.8, which is really good, and specifically given the image sensitivity of current digital sensors, f2.8 is very bright. You don't actually need 1.8. Yeah, that does give you separation, but does create an issue. You have to use very high shutter. So f2.8 is really good and bright, but this puppy goes even brighter. So the fact that you can literally take this lens, set it to f2.8, and it's a constant aperture from 35 to 150, that's awesome. And cost is around 1.5 lakhs in India, around $1,900 in USA. So it's expensive, but not ludicrously expensive. Now, what are the specifications of this puppy? The f-stop changes because it's not a constant aperture lens. It does changes. However, it does changes in a very forgiving way, because again, the smallest is going is f2.8, which is still huge. So it goes from f2 from f35mm to 40mm, which gives you 5mm of range at f2, which is good, because there are other lenses that have tried something bonkers like this, but they were like, you move it from the widest even a little bit, even a little hair is just like, yep, now aperture closes down. So it does have 5mm of range. Then it goes from f2.2 from 40 to 60, then 60 to 80 it goes to f2.2, and f2.8 after that. So it's really bright from, well, f2.8 throughout the range, and even f2 at till 40mm, which is really good. So it does stop down, but does not stop down too drastically and too quickly, so you can actually enjoy this puppy for long. It does have 3 custom button and layers function on that, meaning it does have one button here, one bottom, and you can provide it 3 layers of function, meaning you can, let's say for example, for video shooting you want these 3 buttons to do custom thing, then for other 3 system you could have like, hey, do these 3 things, and you have a toggle switch which will allow you to switch between them. Now then the question becomes, how the heck you're gonna program these buttons, because this is not from native Sony. You cannot just like directly go into a custom menu and all that. So Tamron included a USB-C port into this, and that will allow you to directly plug this puppy to a laptop or a desktop and program this. Now, having the another advantage of the fact that there is a direct USB-C plug, you can basically firmware update. If in the future there are some firmware update that makes it a bit more efficient, bit more energy optimized, you can update that firmware without any extra hassle, which is a really good system. Because you may have noticed, because E-mount, while it is an open system, it's not so open as in like, you can do everything. And not to mention, you are a third party. You do not have the luxury to sitting in the same lab where people are developing this sensor mount. So you do have some leeway of issue where it's like, we thought this will work. When we put it in camera model, people are like, hey dude, it's not working out, autofocus is not working as reliable. And then you would have noticed that Sigma has released many patches to update their lens, but updating them is a hassle, simply because you have to buy a separate dock and then put it in there, or you have to go to a shop that has already invested into that. This bypasses that issue, and it does have extra button function, which may or may not be a desirable function for you, but I would rather have it than not have it. And I really like the idea that using USB-C, no proprietary Hua. I really love that fact. However, be mindful, some people have complained that it only works with Tamron's USB-C cable. Again, it could be very finicky. So, but again, given the fact that you only have to use this puppy a few times, I do expect that to be a manageable thing. Now, it's a heavy boy, meaning 1.16 grams. So basically, it's huge. Basically, almost assume more than 1 kilogram. Like if you are uncomfortable anything above 1 kilogram, this lens alone will make it unbearably heavy. But if you are comfortable with 2 kilogram of gear, meaning camera body plus the lens, this puppy is well within the tolerance. And lens mount is huge, meaning the frontal element that goes up to 82 millimeter. You need 82 millimeter ND filters and polarizer for this puppy, which is huge. Now the benefit of that is like there are very few things that goes above 82. So if you buy 82, you can easily step it down to 77, which is far more common, but you have the advantage. So these are the specification of this puppy. Now what about the quality? Because at the end of the day, specification does not matter if the lens has like way too much issues. At this point in time, all the reviews, because this lens has been out for some months, it is like reality is it's more than good enough for most people. Like for almost everything, this lens will not be a puppy where you like it's letting me down. It will rarely do that. It's like, yeah, I got this. Like you could get a bit more from a better lens, but it won't be like, oh, this lens is such a garbage. It's not there. It's like, I got this. Any professional with this lens, with a little bit of time, little bit of elbow grease, is gonna have amazing output. So it takes care of that. Now it has low to no focus breathing, which is a really big issue, especially with G Master lenses. Sony is really kind of slipping in that department, where it's like, dude, you also have to take care of that focus breathing, but they're not. I don't think it's high priority for them. But the G Master does have unique selling points, but this has no focus breathing. So if you are in a scenario where you are using a camera for video functions, that's very awesome. Then it also has very good parfocal performance, meaning if you can focus into something, some object, let's say some person face, and you zoom in, most photographic lens will literally drop it out of focus, simply because again the lens elements are not designed in such a way. This is designed in such a way, but I'm pretty sure they did not match the absolute criteria, so it does have a little bit of focus slipping. But again, assume eye autofocus and you are directly focused on someone's eye and you're zooming in, and the eye literally goes a little bit up and down because eye is a three-dimensional surface, does not matter too much. So it's a really good parfocal performance, which really makes it a really amazing video lens also. Now, what about autofocus performance? It's good. Under no circumstance you will be like, oh, it does not do autofocus. It's good. However, be mindful. If you compare this puppy to, let's say, Sony's G Master Mark II series of lenses, do not expect them to match up. Now, this can easily hold on to almost most scenario, but in some scenarios it will break down, specifically if you're trying to do bird photography or things are running directly towards it. That's where puppies breaks down. So anytime Dick and Harry who's doing testing, every testing other than directly running towards the camera lens, this puppy will falter. Now, it's not its fault, simply because A, it's big, B, it's huge, C, is third party will never be as good as first party, because first party have the advantage of working with both the things, meaning the camera body could literally have software microcodes that are like, dude, if you detect this lens, do these changes. That will make it far more accurate. That's the benefit of having first party systems, and that's why like most sports photographer, they do not even touch third party lenses. They're like, again, if they have to, they will, but generally they will try to basically like, that's how you will see like sports arena, you will see Canon white lenses all the way. That's the reason. It's like, you really don't want to take a risk. Again, if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, again, not every sports photographer is like swimming in money, or some of them have their gears bashed by a football. So in those sort of scenario, you may find some people using some third party lens, but generally they are not that popular. That's the reason, because autofocus, especially in fast-paced action, will not be able to keep up. It will do a very good job, and again, if you're coming from an old equipment, let's say your old camera body is like, and now you're upgrading to this puppy, you'll be like, damn, this is good. It will bitch slap any old DSLR. But if you're coming from a high-end Sony A1 working with like a high-end let's say 72-200 f2.8 Mark II lens, yeah, this is gonna be smoked. So be mindful of that. It does have, because of the ludicrous aperture, it does have lens flare issues, which is maybe desirable, because many people are saying that from an artistic point of view, it does make it awesome. But again, if you're not JJ Abrams, you may not find it as desirable, but be aware of that. Now, given the fact that generally there is a unspoken rule that once you start to approach 1 kilogram of weight territory, please have a tripod mount on the lens, because at that point in time, these tiny basically mount has to hold that weight. And if you are photographer, wedding photographer, generally you have their cameras hanging here like this. You are literally asking a lot of that mount. Even if that mount is directly bolted to let's say magnesium chassis, still tiny screws that I have to transmit that kind of torque loading, which is not very comfortable for many people. So people may find that part to be odd. Again, if you're holding it like this all the time, awesome, no problem. But if you're like letting it hang, it may be uncomfortable. So that's a bit odd. Especially generally there is like, dude, if you start to approach 1 kilogram, try to have a hot shoe collar. But again, if I buy this, I may be able to 3D print it. So those are some things that you have to understand about this. Now, for whom this lens is built? Well, at this point in time, this is the perfect first lens that for any Sony user, even as an enthusiast, even as a wedding photographer. First lens. If you are like, I'm starting into this field, I do not have boatload of money, is this lens a good lens? The answer is absolutely yes. For example, if you pair this puppy up with a A7 Mark IV, now be mindful, in other higher end models you have a lot of custom buttons, so that's not an issue, but these 3 extra buttons that you are getting with this puppy becomes life-saving if you are using something as basic as A7 Mark IV. A7 Mark IV weight is around 658 grams, plus the weight of this puppy, which is around 1165 grams, that is around 1.83 kilograms, still under 2 kilograms. If you are young, generally managing 2 kilograms of equipment is doable. However, you will start to feel sore after 6 hours, but 6 hours should be enough for you to get your job done. Now be mindful, it does have another psychological element. It's big and it's bold and heavy also, meaning again, it's not a thing that has any tangible evidence to it, but it's a psychological thing. When we see big huge lenses, we assume it's good. Again, it's a psychological, it's not always true. That's absolutely true. That's fundamentally mathematically scientifically proven thing, but here's we are ape. So that's the one thing you have to understand. It's like if you go to a wedding and you have a good lens, but again it's a very small and compact and light, people may not give you get that warm feeling, but you come up with like huge lens or have a even huger lens hood into it, people are like, damn son. If people have that feeling towards you, they are more likely to give you more money. So that's why people generally prefer in many scenarios to have huge lenses. And the total cost of this system would be around 2.5 lakhs for the body and 1.5 lakhs for the the lens. You are talking about 4 lakh, which is not a laughing matter. Again, that's the price of most second-hand cars, good quality ones. But again, it has the long-term use benefit, because there are many lenses that you buy as a first, but generally you end up putting them, canning them after you may have bought some holy trinity lenses or something bit more professional or premium. However, this puppy still has the advantage that let's say for your wedding work you still have like holy trinity lenses, or sports photography you have your telephoto like from Sony directly, but when you are traveling just for lolling around, you can just utilizing this thing. You're just like YOLO. So that's the whole point. It does make it long term. It's not something that you buy and you forget about it. It's something that you buy, you use. Even if you buy other lenses, many times you will falling back to this, especially if you are a travel photographer. For wedding photography, this is a really good compromise of it can take care of most things. Again, it will not give you the most detailed photographs of wedding rings and all that jazz, but it will get the job done. And even portraiture, because while generally people do prefer 70 to 200 for portraitures because it does allow to you to compress the background really good, but 150 is not bad. So that's the whole point. It can take care of almost everything for a first time user. So if you invest around 4 lakh rupees, this puppy would be so good that you're like, if you are messing up, generally there is either you may have a faulty equipment, which could happen, or you are really not that good. So I really think this is a really good sort of system, and it does show the true advantage of Sony's 8-year lead. There are companies that's the first thing Tamron is getting asked from the people is like, will you update this puppy, launch this puppy for R mount? The answer is no, not anytime soon. And be mindful, R mount and Z mount both are quite amazing, but they are locked, not open, meaning that it has to be reverse engineered by Sigma and Tamron and every Tom, Dick and Harry else. It's gonna take time. So that's another thing, because a body is just a body, incomplete. You have to worry about lenses. Again, if you can afford first party lenses, awesome, but they are ludicrously expensive. While Canon does make amazing red ring lenses, the cost is like kidney is not enough. You also have to sell your liver, and I'm like, I need my liver. So this is for whom we are talking about. So basically, if you are starting out, if you are enthusiast, this is a really good take care of everything else, learn from this, and then you grow up and then you like, hey, I really think I'm more into macro photography, go with macro lens setup. If you are like, hey, I'm really into telephoto, go with telephoto. This will take care of almost everything. So this was my presentation on basically Tamron's 35 to 150 millimeter f2.8 or f2.8 constant lens. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment, because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.